beautiful. We are so beautiful. Beautiful. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Rise and shine, everyone, rise and shine. Thank you for tuning in to Cocoa Fresh Health Talk and Tips with the medicine woman, Yoella. And I will be bringing you the latest out of the box health news for melanated people. Thanks for joining in. So just to go over a little things, if you would like a health consultation, fertility consultation, or postpartum doula services, please visit cocofresh.com and click on services. If you need prenatal vitamins, hair and skin products, please click on cocofresh.com and press shop. You can also find my most infamous product, the Ancient Herbal Immune Tonic, which has been working wonders for allergies and asthma, the reduction of mucus, cold and flu, as well as improving mental clarity. You can find that as well. Also, please subscribe to my YouTube channel for the past health talk discussions. Elderberry Gummies and Girl Talk, June 17th on Cocoa Fresh Health Talk and Tips. This is an exclusive event for only $25. It's limited spaces available. We will be making elderberry gummies live, as well as having a Girl Talk discussion on women's health. I will be answering questions, going over the best herbs and practices for women's health, yeast infections, HSV, HPV, simplex 1 and 2, vaginal care, dry sex, slippery sex, all types of things pertaining to women we will have in that discussion. Don't be shy, ask your questions, join in, and we will definitely be answering your questions all the while we are making elderberry gummies. Okay, so I will share that link in a little while. Now let's dig deep. The Caucasian has waged full-scale war against the health of melanated babies. Melanated children are highly melanated, highly biochemically responsive, highly spiritual, and electromagnetically united to the Most High and all of his wonders, the parents, water, the plants, and the earth. Each melanated child has specific prenatal rhythm of the Most High. The prenatal movements of certain children are distinctly different from the prenatal movements of other children. Consequently, that child requires that the mother alters her diet to meet the specific nutritional needs of the unborn child. The Caucasian medicine, nutrition, disease and remedy systems ignore rhythm, melanin, and racism. The health practitioners, the Caucasian health practitioners, they have no rhythm, they do not have any type of holistically and they do not understand rhythm at all. They ignore the Most High and its wonders, and they ignore the movement of the prenatal baby's growth and development, as well as the Most High's specific nutrition requirements. Sound, which is melanin driven, is very important for the melanated child. A child's pineal gland and ears, the first mature physical senses, are very important. The eardrum is fully developed before birth and translates sound, light energy, just as highly melanated skin can convert light energy into images that are interpreted by the brain as the sound, smell, touch, sight, and psychic energy and extrasensory information. And we know this because we say, this baby has been here before. Melanated people have the highest melanin content in their ears. The prenatal child's ears act as part of the brain. The correct cultural music and drumming should be a definite part of the parent's surroundings and in the prenatal child's life. So sometimes you will hear while you're pregnant to make sure you are playing music, you're talking to your child while you're pregnant, and after they're born, playing classical music, playing light drumming, playing Native American flutes. These all have certain effects on the child's development. So now let's get into it. Today we have a returning guest. Her name is Naem. Can you please introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are?
Good morning. Sorry. Oh, it's early here. It's 5 o'clock my time. My name is Sister Naem, House of Soldier Tamir. I am a registered nurse. I've been a nurse for 12 years, 13 years. I've been a pediatric nurse for 10 years and a labor and delivery or perinatal nurse for the last year and a half. I actually am in school to be a midwife, and Lord's will. I'm in school to be a midwife and a women's health nurse practitioner, and I have my bachelor's in nursing as well.
Okay, all praises. I'm so happy you're going to school to be a midwife right now. That is just so needed. Okay, so next we also have another guest. In that excerpt I just read, it mentioned how some children require the mom to change their eating habits before birth and during breastfeeding stages. When the unborn child give their mom certain signs and signals that they have to eat their change their eating habits, the mom will experience a lot of vomiting and sickness and nausea and things like that, to the point where the mom kind of gets it, okay, I can't eat this anymore with this baby. Another way after birth is through the child's um, developing skin. So if you are breastfeeding and the child does not want you to eat certain things, the baby will let you know by developing skin rashes and certain signs and signals, digestive issues, anything to let the mom know, I cannot eat this. Now, all children are made different. There are some children that can actually have certain diets and some children cannot. But your child will let you know in its own specific way. So, Shoshana, can you please introduce yourself, give us your background, and tell us your story about your child?
Greetings, everybody. Shalom and good morning. I hope you guys are in good spirits. So my name is Shoshana, and I am a master certified personal trainer. And I've been in the fitness industry for about 8 years now. And I'm currently in school to become a holistic nutrition wellness practitioner. And I have a focus of culinary as far as healing foods. So the story. It's hard to tell you guys the story without showing you the picture, but I am going to find a way to share that picture with you all. So I have a 2.5-year-old son who will soon be 3 here actually this month, and his name is Noah. So when Noah was born, Noah didn't have atopic dermatitis, aka eczema, right? So when Noah was around 3 months old, I started to see little, redness on his cheeks, right? And for when I would take him to the pediatrician, he would get his checkups. They just stated that at first it looked like it was just baby acne, because when babies are born, typically some babies do have baby acne, and it normally clears up after a certain amount of time. So what I started to notice was it wasn't going away. So I remember having conversation on the phone with my mom, telling her he had this redness on his skin, and I'm really concerned about it. And I'm from down south. And down south, what they did to break baby acne was they gave the babies catnip tea. Catnip is a herb, and down south, that's just what my great grandmother did, and it always cleared the baby up with baby acne. So I tried that, as my mom stated, and it didn't go away. So when we went back to the pediatrician, when Noah was around going on 4 months, that's when she actually said that Noah has eczema, atopic dermatitis. And when she told me that, I'm like, huh? First off, nobody in my family ever had. I don't know if anybody in my family had an eczema. Now, I do know growing up, I did have dry skin. And I did know that it's oddly enough, one time I had on my eyelid, it was very dry and itchy, and it felt like eczema, and it was on my eyelid. That's weird. And so I'm just highly confused. Now, I did know at the time my mother's mom, my grandmother had asthma, and some other people in my family had asthma, and I did have allergies. I was highly allergic to pollen and shellfish. So, and I did have extremely sensitive skin. I did know that, because I couldn't even, still to this day, I can't use anything outside of natural products on my skin. So from that point on, I really didn't know what to do, like I said, because I didn't know anything about eczema. So me as a mom, and me already being in the realm of health and wellness, I started to research it, of course, and I started to see some things holistically that I can do to start, kickstart this process of him getting his healing. And of course, you guys already know, when the baby has atopic dermatitis, aka eczema, it turned into atopic dermatitis when it got worse. So they gave me triamcinolone. If you're not familiar with triamcinolone, that is a cream, a steroid cream that they give children to clear their skin up. Now, when she tried to prescribe me that, I said, I had already knew about steroid topical creams. And I told her, do you have any creams that don't include steroids? Because I did hear that it wasn't good for a child. And she said, yes, I do understand that. And we do have a cream. And so she prescribed him another topical cream. And it was steroid free, but at the same time, it also stated, because me as a mom, I've never been someone who was into pharmaceutical medicine if I didn't have to take it. You understand what I'm saying? So I always read. And when I read about the actual topical cream, it stated that, you know, you shouldn't be using it if you was, you know, under the age of 2. And no, it was only 4 months. And it also stated other things. So I was like, no, this is not going to work. I didn't tell her that, but I didn't use those creams. Now, it came hard. It was really, really hard. And it was really hard for several reasons. One reason is because, you know, my Lord started to get frustrated with the way that my son's skin was looking. And so sometimes he was like, well, they told you to put the cream on, you know, you have to honor the physician. But what I was trying to explain to him is steroids, I heard and research that it actually bleaches the child's skin, and also that as they get older, it can cause their skin to stretch out and cause stretch, just a whole lot of different problems. And so sometimes I would have to put it on him, not because I wanted to because his dad ordered me to, and I couldn't do it. But so what I would do is when, you know, I would put it on there when he said so, but I wouldn't do it any other time. And even when I did do it, it lightens his skin. Like the areas that I put it at, which I knew it was going to do that anyway, it lightened his skin. So I kind of just went on strike, to be honest with you. And I really didn't use it. I never wanted to use it from the beginning. I didn't use it. So you already know they have all of these products out for eczema, right? They have Aveeno, quote unquote, that's supposed to be for sensitive skin. They have, so some recommended like, hey, why don't you use Aveeno? And then I put Aveeno on his skin, and that broke him out too. And even worse. And I learned that Aveeno is actually owned by Johnson & Johnson, which is one of the worst skincare companies for children. Sorry, but not sorry. Then moving on, I tried to use, I was just trying to figure out what would work for his skin. And of course, everybody's recommending things like Cetaphil and, you know, all of those different lotions and different things like that. But I'm like, this is not working. So I went to Seven Under. Seven Under is a market. It's a Black-owned market, and it sells fresh produce, and it has a whole section full of herbs. It's amazing, and it sells Black-owned books. It's just in 5 Points area where you have more Black-owned businesses. So they had this skin salve. And the skin salve in it had dandelion, it had burdock, it had calendula, it had all of the topical herbs in it that will help, you know, heal the skin topically. And also his pediatrician actually had, her name is Dr. Blair. She's from the tribe of Benjamin. She actually had a cream in her practice, and it had aloe, calendula, shea butter, some different things like that. But no matter what cream I used, it did not work. Every time people would see me, they would be like, oh, what are you putting on his skin? Everywhere I turn, what are you putting on his skin? And what I would try to explain to people is the skin is the largest detox organ on your body, which means the skin is a reflection of what's going on the inside. So the thing is, no matter what cream you apply topically, it's not going to help until you get to the root of the problem. So I'm trying to make a long story and cut it a little bit down. So what I started to notice was, because no cream that I put on him was working, wasn't getting better. So when I took him back to the pediatrician, I was like, maybe it seems like, I was like, the most I literally dropped it in my brain, because I would see Noah and he would be extremely itchy at night. He wasn't able to sleep. I would have to have mittens on his hands, and he learned how to probably learn how to scratch before he learned how to do anything. My mom would come, she would be so sad, and she was like, the baby, he's not even that old and he already knows how to scratch. My baby was suffering, and it was very hard for me to even watch. It was hard because I was a first time new mom at that, and he's suffering all night long. He's not sleeping, I'm not sleeping, he's scratching throughout the day, and it just got worse and worse and worse. So went to the pediatrician, and like I said, the most I dropped it in my spirit because he would scratch at his mouth too, all over his body and his mouth. And I thought about it. I said, when somebody's having an allergic reaction, they do kind of scratch at their mouth. And I was like, okay, I think my baby is having allergic reactions. So when I went to the pediatrician, she stated that, and I was pleading to her, telling her everything was going on. And the first thing she said was, so as we all know, the top 5 allergens for kids is cow's milk, wheat, eggs, peanuts, soybeans, tree nuts, and different things like that, right? Those are the top allergens for children. And I wish I had known this prior to breastfeeding, as I stated, because I was a new mom and breastfeeding was new for me. So when the pediatrician, she stated those top 5 allergens for kids, and she said, do you eat any of those? First thing she asked me was, how's your diet? How's your nutrition? And now, granted, I'm not a horrible eater. I thought that I was typically a clean eater. I'm a trainer. That's what I thought. But I later on learned that what's clean to you is not clean to the baby's body, because what I mean by that is, if that food don't agree with that child's gut, then it is not clean for them. It's not a healthy food for them, which means you don't need to eat it. So the first thing she asked me was, how's your diet? And then when I thought about it and she named those things, guess what? I was consuming wheat. I was drinking almond milk. I was eating things with soy in it. I was eating a little bit of it all. And I was like, wow. And she's like, you have 2 options. You can either do the elimination diet, right? The elimination diet is where, let's say I take away eggs, right? I take eggs out of the diet for about 2 weeks, right? Because it takes 2 weeks for that food to leave the mom's milk and the baby's body. Of course, we know some things take longer, but I'm just in general making a little synopsis of what it takes to leave the body. So you take it out, and then when you introduce it back, that baby has that same response to that food. That's how you find out that's what that child is reacting to. So the elimination diet is very tedious. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. But the thing is, the other option was to get him a blood test, right? So they can see exactly what he's allergic to. I did not want to get the blood test because he was only 4 months. And you know that it's hard to get a baby's blood at that age. And I'm like, I just can't imagine taking my son to them, and they're going to be sticking him and torturing him, and he's already suffering and itchy, and he don't know what's going on, and he's already so young, having to go through so much. So my Lord, that's the route he wanted me to take. He wanted me to take the blood test route. So you know what's funny? Every time I tried to take him to get that blood test done, the Most High didn't let it go through. I'm just going to say that because every time I went, it was either they was closing, I forgot something at home, or document, and they wouldn't just call the pediatrics and get it. So it never worked out. But I had already made up in my mind I was going to do the elimination diet. So long story cut short, y'all, I got fed up. I got completely fed up. So I said, you know what? I'm eliminating it all. So I started by eliminating meat, because even though meat had nothing to do with it, meat is filled with uric acid. And if his gut is already inflamed, I'm not helping him at all by continuing to eat it. When you got to heal, you got to turn back to what the Most High said. And that's what I knew in my mind. So I said, I'm just going to I had been wanting to be plant-based anyway and was only eating fish occasionally. So I cut out meat. I went ahead and cut out soy. I went ahead and made sure I wasn't doing any peanuts, tree nuts, and no traces of any type of eggs or dairy. I had already stopped eating dairy, but from time to time, I did have an egg with my Lord. So I went ahead and cut out those foods, but the thing is, when you cut out those foods, now you got to figure out what you can't eat. I remember being in the grocery store, spending hours on one aisle reading the label. Because when you really start to read a label, you notice that all of those things is in most foods. And I say most foods, I'm gonna say about really 70% or 80%. And you have to really relearn what stores to go to that has allergen-free foods and how to cook things to make it still, of course, tasteful and to where it's going to be nutritious to make sure you get all the vitamins and minerals that food needs, although it don't have those things. So it started to get better, but as we all know, guys, holistic healing is slow. And the problem is we want everything quick, but it does not work like that. It does not work like that. And then sometimes, of course, I would slip up and I would probably have some things with wheat or soy in it, like I said. And so it took me a while to get to a place to where I completely eliminated those two things. So I just started to get frustrated because I pretty much was doing everything I was figuring out what to do for him on my own. I eliminated those foods, and then I would give him calendula bath because we know that's good for the skin. Benji would give me Cereseed. I gave him Cereseed bath, and I would drink a little bit to cleanse his blood, only a little bit just so he can get it through my milk. I was introduced to oregano oil. Sister Vaya actually gave me my first bottle of oregano oil. I started doing a lot of oregano oil. I would take it every day. And I would, before I even got to that, just to check back, I got fed up with the pediatrician because I'm like, no offense to them, but I'm like, they can't they can't help me. So I started to research myself, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take him to see an allergy specialist because I can't figure out, just so because I've been doing this, I've been eating this way, but I still felt like he wasn't progressing as much as he should, or I guess as fast as I wanted him to, and his dad, and, different things like that. So I took him to an allergy specialist, and they did a skin test on him. And that's when I learned exactly what he was allergic to, which is milk, all dairy, eggs, peanuts, tree nuts. Basically, like I said, all of the things before that I had been eating. So it did explain why he was having those allergic reactions, because he did end up being allergic to those. I believe from there, I remember like it was yesterday, I emailed Sister Yoella because I was like, I feel like I did everything that I know that I should do. I emailed her and I told her what was going on with Noah. I gave her the rundown. I told her I had already taken out these certain foods and, what I should do next. So I remember she did tell me that I do need to make sure he's on a probiotic because that will help to seal his gut. And let me just add this. I later on figured out Noah did have a leaky gut, but I'm gonna get into that a little later because I don't want to miss parts of the story. So she did tell me that he did need to be taking a good probiotic, of course, to help create a healthy gut flora, to help his body properly digest food, and to keep a good balance of good and bad bacteria, basically for the digestive tract, the gut. She did tell me that's when I started him on her products, and she provided me with the soap, the cream. It was things for his hair. Basically, I got everything that she had that would be able to help him. And she also informed me to make sure that I was giving him certain vitamins and different things like that. So, of course, I took that counsel and I started him on the products, and that her products helped out a whole lot. Especially, I forgot to mention, like I had to relearn how to care for a child with eczema. Mm-hmm. So the allergy specialist told me that, they say that you don't supposed to bathe a child who has severe eczema, atopic dermatitis every day, but you actually do because their skin needs that moisture. And he was like, he needs to take a bath from at least 15 minutes. 15 to 20 minutes, he need to actually soak in a bath to help his body absorb the water to get some moisture inside his skin. And also, I learned that too, I don't supposed to actually bathe him while the water is in the tub. Let him sit in the tub in the water, let the water drain, and then I would actually go in to bathe him afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, it's a lot of tedious thing. And also, I learned from him as well. What is it? Oh, yeah. It's so many little pieces to eczema, guys. The stuff the detergent that you washing the child's clothes with. That's something I didn't think about. And it's like the Most High literally was sending people in my life, random people in the body, like Sister Yoella, Sister Vaya, and just like Benji's sister here in Atlanta, Sister Elaine. They would ask me questions like, well, did you ever think about what you're bathing his clothes in? I mean, what you're washing his clothes in? And I said, wow, that could be it. So that was part of the problem too. So guess what? When I first had Noah, I know I'm all over the place, but I'm just trying not to leave out nothing. So I was actually washing Noah's clothes in Dreft. Dreft is the worst. The worst.
Yes.
Let me say it again. The worst thing that you can wash your child's clothes in. I did not know this. I'm a first-time mom, and I didn't know anything about eczema. So I learned. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I switched. I took that away, and I immediately started to wash his clothes in All Free and Clear. All Free and Clear, that brand, right? I even got to a point to where I stopped washing it with that. Do you know I had did some deep research, and on Amazon they had this little ball, and it was actually filled with. I'll have to show it to you. I forgot the exact name, but it's reusable. You can use it for years, and it is unscented and it's made of natural things, and it's crazy how they created. But you can use it over and over again. I started washing his clothes with that, and I had Sister Alyssa here in Atlanta camp make me. Because she makes detergent and washing powder. So I had her make me one, and it was made out of baking soda. And baking soda, and it's a couple other ingredients you add to it. Baking soda, and I forgot the other things, but it don't have anything in it. I got to that point because I'm like, you know what? I'm stripping everything. I had to make sure that Noah's clothes was 100% cotton. All the way down to what the Most High tells us. We think that stuff is not for a reason, but it is. Noah still to this day, I make sure he don't get no clothes that's not 100% cotton. That's why a lot of times you'll always see Noah in the same type of clothes, polo clothes, different things like that, because I needed to be 100% cotton. So just to recap, I went ahead and did the elimination diet, right? I just took everything out. I did a whole bunch of raw food cleansing. I was raw food cleansing, doing raw, 30-day raw food cleansing. I was doing oregano every day while cleansing. I was taking a lot of different herbs. And I'm telling you, and the reason why this is funny and I'm laughing is because a lot of people looked at me crazy because I was intermittent fasting while breastfeeding, raw vegan cleansing while breastfeeding, taking the oregano and different things like that, because we're so stuck on Babylon way to eat. But what about those women in Africa who don't have access to no food, but they're still breastfeeding? So that's a whole nother topic about nutrition while lactating, because a lot of people thought that it was like, well, how's your milk supply going to drop because you're eating only raw foods? Raw foods hold all of the nutrients that you need more than cooked food and enzymes. So there is no way possible that you won't be that won't suffice. And now I can say that firmly that I'm in school for holistic nutrition because I've been taught that as well. And I talk to my the naturopathic doctors all the time about it. So that's a whole fib. So Babylon has really, really messed up our mindset when it comes to nutrition while breastfeeding, having us thinking that if we're plant-based, but because there's a proper way to do everything. You understand what I'm saying? Because even though I did the raw vegan cleanse, I did get a B12 vitamin from Sister Yoella. I ate very, very, very nutritious food, and it was filled with vitamins and minerals, a complete meals. So I was getting everything that I need, and that's what healed him, because at the end of the day, his gut had to be healed. And you have to remember, he was not eating any food. and he wouldn't eat food. Noah didn't start eating food till he was 2 years old. So back to what I was saying before I got to that. So yes, I did the elimination diet. I did a lot of raw food cleansing. I use oregano. I use Cocoa Fresh products. And I also would start applying oregano to his skin topically. Because Sister Yoella actually gifted me oregano. I started putting that on his skin. And we all know that, ding, oregano, when you put it on the skin, it actually has antibacterial properties. Mm-hmm. I pride myself in this. You know, a lot of kids who have severe atopic dermatitis, they end up getting staph infection because they get open. The skin will break open a lot of time. They'll get open wounds on their skin. And that had not happened to Noah. And it was severely hot in Atlantic school. And we was there for a very long time. I would clear him up, right? And then we would go to the school. He would flare up all over again because children who have severe eczema cannot be in a hot environment. That's going to make them break out. It's so many pieces and it's so much special care that they take that is not even funny. It's like they have to live in a bubble. Mm-hmm. And do you know, when I took Noah to the allergy specialist, he told me that he had cross allergens. I almost fell out. If you guys don't know what cross allergens is, that's basically anything that's attached. Let's say anything that's attached to the berry tree in the grass. If it crosses it, he's going to have a reaction, because you know how a lot of people state that you're supposed to start feeding children solids, because it said in my book as well, at the age of around maybe 6 to 8 months you introduce solids, right? Mm-hmm. So I personally didn't agree with that. Mm-hmm. I felt like the gut is not ready. I felt like the gut, if he's already suffering, his gut's not ready to properly digest food until he's 1. And that's what I believe, and that's what I did. A lot of people didn't agree with that either, but I just didn't care at that moment. People always they was looking at me crazy anyway. So I tried to start introducing food to Noah at 1. And I just started with the simple things like sweet potatoes, like berries and different things like that. Do you know he would flare up his lips? It would get huge. It was just like it was like a roller coaster, you guys. It's like no matter what I did, it was wrong. And every time I went to the doctor's office, it was a horror movie. I was just like, you know, the Most High, this is something. So that's when I found out he had cross allergens. And that's why I was like, you know what? Even though every time I go to the pediatrician, she's looking at me basically she offered me formula one time. I went to the pediatrician after she kept seeing Noah for months and months and months, and she would have her chart out. And I'm in school for holistic nutrition, so I know about nutrition for infants. I already know what she was doing. She was testing him to see if she was looking at his milestones. She was looking at his weight, and he kept falling in the 27th percentile. Not the 27, but a percentile that he was not supposed to be in as far as his weight and as far as his developmental. Mm-hmm. Right? So she's looking at me, and she's basically, one day she came in and she had 2 cans of milk in her hand. She had goat milk in her hand, goat milk formula, and she had that big name formula that's dairy and soy free, Alentinum. She had Alentinum and goat milk in her hand, and she was like, well, here are some allergen-free formulas, and I think that you should try them out, because basically what she was trying to say is my breast milk was the problem. And if you're not strong, I promise you, I would have listened to her. But I didn't, because guess what I had also read during my research? Breast milk is the best thing for a child who have severe eczema. So don't ever let anybody tell you not to breastfeed your child because they have severe eczema. You just do what you have to do as a parent and simply cut those foods out and keep trusting the process. So I did not stop breastfeeding.
While you're on breast milk, I just want to chime in real quick. Just becoming a doula and studying with some of the sisters from Birth and Color, learning breast milk. It's more of building your blood that supplies the breast milk. it's not so much, let me take this drink to make the breast milk. It's let me take or do whatever I need to do as a mom to build my blood, which is all the foods that you started to eat, to make sure the breast milk is enough for your child. So there's no real true evidence that this specific product is going to increase your breast milk. That specific product is going to increase your breast milk. It's the building of the blood. The mom has to remember, let me make sure my oxygen is good and my blood is good, and then you will have all the supplies and nutrients you need for your child. You could go ahead.
And that's beautiful that you said that, because that's what I started focusing on, cleansing my blood. Mm-hmm. Because I already knew cleansing my blood and his blood is what will ultimately also help to heal his gut. So, so like I said, so the thing is, she was looking at Noah and he was falling under the charts, and she was trying to tell me to stop breastfeeding. I'm like, no, because actually I would apply my breast milk directly to Noah's skin, because we know breast milk also hold these, I call it golden. It's just golden, it's magic, and it helps with a lot of things. I would actually apply my breast milk directly to his skin, and it will help soothe him. And just want to piggyback really quickly, because a lot of people always ask me, how did you deal and help soothe him with the itching? That's a whole nother story. But the things that I did was, I did oatmeal baths every night. I always did some type of herbal bath or oatmeal bath. Or so I would do oatmeal baths. Told you I would do the Cereseed, the calendula baths. And right after I soak him in the oatmeal baths, I would go ahead and apply fresh aloe vera to his skin. And aloe vera it's a cooling agent. It helps with moisture. It helps to clear him up. And that actually helps to calm his skin. And that's the goal. You want to get it calm so he will be less prone to itching. And I also would use neem oil. Neem oil really helped. I know a lot of people don't like the way it smells, but when you're trying to get healing, you shouldn't be thinking about that. So I didn't mix it with nothing. I applied neem oil directly to his skin, oregano directly to his skin, not all over his skin with the oregano, just the spots that were inflamed, where he was flared at the most. That's where I applied the oregano at. Of course, I diluted the oregano, but if you get it from Sister Yoella, it comes already diluted with the highest grade of olive oil that you can find. So I didn't have to do that with hers. And also, yeah, the aloe vera, and that helped to soothe his skin. And wet wrap therapy works like a miracle. I don't know if you ever heard of wet wrap therapy, but that was introduced to me by his allergy specialist. So wet wrap therapy is basically when you do get him out the tub, and that's another thing I learned, is that you have to moisturize a child's skin differently that has eczema. So when you take them out of the bath, you don't dry them completely off. Mm-hmm. You leave the skin damp, and then you go and apply the topical creams. And you want to apply the topical creams that or herbs or whatever that's healing first. Like I would apply the oregano while it's still damp in those areas, and then I would go in and take the Cocoa Fresh Skin Eczema Cream around the other places. And I never mixed the oregano or whatever I applied to the flare parts of his body with the actual skin eczema cream, because if you do that, that's going to take away from what you put on the actual flare part, if you understand what I'm saying. So if the flare part was here, you moisturize around it so that the actual oregano can do what it need to do for that flare part of his skin. And you got to make sure the skin is still damp. You never dry an eczema child body all the way off. And you know what I kept in my purse? Don't laugh at me. I kept aloe vera spray. I would make some aloe vera. I'll put it in a bottle, and I would put some spring water in there or alkaline water. And I would be out when we would be at the school. They'd be like, Sister Shoshana, what you doing? I'm spraying the skin. I'm spraying the skin because the more I kept it moisturized and kept it cool, the less he would itch. Another thing, you never watch a child bathe the child that has eczema in hot water. That is one of the worst things you could do. So Sister Eliana, she's from the tribe of Asher, she told me if Noah can stand it, because it'll be so hot at school, so hot outside, she's like, when you get him home, bathe him in cold water. Because what the cold water is going to do is going to help stop him from being itching. And I forgot some other things she explained, but it worked. So I didn't have him, of course, in ice cold water, but I had him in cool water. And so you got to make sure you moisturize them properly. So you, like I said, and after I didn't have to apply any oils or anything with the skin eczema cream that I got from Sister Yoella, because it had everything you needed in it. So as I stated before, Noah was, so at this point, okay, he got to 1, right? I'm trying not to take too long. When he got to 1, everybody already know, I'm pretty sure our sister that's a pediatric nurse knows this. When a child becomes 1, that's when they do the blood test to test the iron levels in the child, right? So Noah was 1 and they tested his iron. And she came back in the room after she tested his iron, and she was looking at me like I was the worst mother on earth. She came back and she was basically yelling at me like she was my Benji auntie. She was like, Noah's iron levels are extremely low. He is 1 point away from having to be submitted to the hospital to get a blood transfusion. If you don't fix this, DFACS could do this and this and that and this and that. And I'm just like, I just felt horrible because I felt like I had been on the right track. And like, you have to remember, holistic healing is slow. And at that time, Noah still wasn't eating solids. You have to remember that, right? So I was just crushed. So his iron levels, she actually marked him off as failing to thrive. And if you're not in the pediatric world, you don't know what that is. Failing to thrive means basically he was underweight. He wasn't walking yet. He wasn't saying much. And his iron levels, he was basically iron deficient. And him not walking yet was due to being vitamin D deficient and having having rickets. And if you don't know what rickets is something that you develop when you become vitamin D deficient because the bones are not strong. And that's why vitamin D is so important for infants. And actually, you're supposed to have the child on the vitamin D supplement while breastfeeding because you don't get enough through your milk. I did have Noah on a vitamin D supplement, but apparently, I'm gonna be honest with you, I probably wasn't being consistent enough with giving him the vitamin D because she didn't say that he was vitamin D deficient, but now I feel like he was, and she did state now when she saw him again, he had a touch of rickets because that's why it took so long for him to walk. And she also recommended I put him in speech therapy. So I was torn, to be honest with you. I got that day, I remembered like it was yesterday, it was raining, and I called Sister Yoella, and then she probably would tell you I was frantic. I was like, they saying he's iron deficient, they saying this, and then Sister Yoella, she told me, to start putting vegan protein in hemp milk and see if he'll drink it. And then also I remember we talked about the things that help increase iron, like beet juice. And then it dropped in my mind. I looked up blackstrap molasses. Blackstrap molasses, beet juice, dark leafy greens, prunes, raisins, and different things like that. So at the time, Noah wasn't still eating, and she prescribed Noah some iron medicine. She prescribed something again. She prescribed, I forgot the name of it, but it's a liquid. It's in my books, but I can't think of the name of it right now. But anyway, I didn't want to give it to Noah. I'm always, here I am again. I didn't want to give it to him. This is the reason why. Because it makes infants extremely constipated. I'm like, you want me to give him this, but then now this is going to happen. He's already suffering with his skin. He can't sleep at night.
And he can't be constipated. That would be the worst.
Exactly. And now it just dropped in my brain the name of it, the Ferrous. That's what she prescribed him. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Beat me up again. I didn't give it to him. Bloop, bloop, bloop. But this is what I did do. I did go and research myself, and we all know that. Well, not we all know that, but actually, when somebody is iron deficient, something you need to think about is what about their vitamin C levels? Because vitamin C helps to absorb iron. So all the time your iron levels isn't low, your body just not properly absorbing it. So I said, let me make sure let me find an iron supplement that's plant-based, gluten-free, that also has vitamin C in it. So I went and found a supplement that had vitamin C in it and iron. It's called Iron Plus. And it's organic, and I started to put him on that, right? But of course, I can't interfere with his dad. His dad, he was, when I told him that, he got a little scared, and he made me use a little bit of it. But as soon as he did, he saw the result of it. Noah was extremely constipated, and then he learned, okay, just keep doing what you're doing, okay? And also, my Lord, doing all this throughout this time too, he wanted me to stop breastfeeding as well. So I was just fine. I was just fine. I'm gonna be honest with you. I felt alone. I felt like it was literally the Most High, me, Sister Yoella, and then later on came Sister Avaya. And those women, honestly, without them, I don't know how we would have gotten through this, because trying to do things holistically is not easy, because everybody around you is looking at you and ridiculing you, making you feel like everything that you're doing is wrong. But holistic healing is slow, and it's not going to happen tomorrow. You're going to go through some stuff. Long story cut short, I put Noah on the Iron Plus. I made him fresh beet juice every day, and I would give him blackstrap molasses directly into his, I would give it to him. I also went and put him on cold pressed flax and hemp seed oil. Why? Because it has omega-3, 6, and 9 fatty acids in it. And that's what you need in order to heal eczema as well, because those good fats is very important, and he needed to gain weight. So I was, long story cut short, y'all, I was doing everything that I was supposed to do on my end, I felt, and Noah still wasn't progressing as far as gaining weight. His skin started to get better, and his hair, all his hair fell out. All his hair started to grow back, but he still wasn't really gaining weight. That's when I figured, but shortly before that, actually I did, when I noticed every time Noah was going to the doctor, he had a really, really, really slow weight gain. And I'm like, he has a leaky gut. It's a parasite somewhere, some yeast candidate, it's some yeast somewhere, it's something going on. He has a leaky gut, because all that good stuff I was giving him through my breast milk, his body wasn't absorbing it. It was leaving his body. So that's when I made sure I followed what your Sister Yoella said prior to this, giving him that probiotic to go back and help seal those holes so that he can actually be able to keep the things that he was eating and then not leave his body. So it was just a long fight, you guys. I could keep going on and on and on. Long story cut short, Noah has been in speech therapy. He went to the speech therapist. The speech therapist was like, well, I don't know what she expect for him to say, because he's only 1 year old. And I noticed that he's not autistic. You know, he actually is a funny kid. He's pretty rebellious. He got his own mind. He rebellious too, because Noah, he only did things when he wanted to do it, and he would laugh at her, because he's laughing at her because he's like, you think I don't know how to do this, but I do, but I'm not going to do it because you want me to do it. So long story cut short, Noah has been in speech therapy. It was a horror movie. I remember days, I was probably depressed, honestly, for a whole 2.5 years straight. And people didn't know, but I was. And it was very, very, very hard for me. Several long nights. And, you know, but I stood firm. I stood firm. His skin was covered. And I remember one time he did actually get an open wound at Feast of Tabernacles. I'll never forget it. That broke me down even more, because when he have an open wound, I couldn't take him to the school, because, you know, whenever an eczema child get an open wound, if somebody got AIDS, herpes, or whatever, they're around him, they can get it. So people always be like, oh, eczema, it's just dry skin. No, it's not. When someone has severe atopic dermatitis and eczema, a lot of that linked to it is vitamin deficiencies, and the child doesn't develop and hit their milestones when they should. So Noah finally started walking. He's finally started talking, and he's thriving. Here we are, to cut the story short. Here we are, Noah's about to be 3. I took Noah to the pediatrician about 2 weeks ago, right? I asked specifically to see Dr. Blair. I had not seen Dr. Blair in a year. Oh, y'all, sorry, I don't want to leave this out before I finish up. I got no vitamin levels checked. I got fed up. I said, you know what? I'm finna get his vitamin levels checked, and I'm not going back to the pediatrician. Because I went back to the doctor after his iron levels was low, right? I did everything Sister Yoella and I discussed. And do you know his iron levels was back up when she tested it again? Did I take ferrous? No, I did not. I just did what we supposed to do to say of the Lord, and I took counsel. So his iron levels up. And after I went back, I had to make up a lie to get his vitamin levels. Because I don't know if you know it or not, but when somebody wants to get their vitamin levels done, they don't want to do it. You have to have a reason. So I always tell people, one of the best things you can do for yourself and your children is get their vitamin levels checked. Because if you get the vitamin and mineral levels checked, you know what you're deficient in, therefore you know what you can fix. Because a lot of things come from vitamin deficiencies. As you see, like I said, vitamin D, rickets, that's why he wasn't walking. You know, iron deficiencies. And when not, it gets so deep, and I don't want to go that deep because I'm trying to keep it level 1. But when I started doing my research, you know, eczema is linked to a whole lot of vitamin deficiencies and a whole lot of different things and minerals you're not getting in. So, and it has to do with too when your family has a history of allergies and asthma. That's what I learned now I'm in school. I'm like, okay, I do have a family history of allergies and asthma. So now guess what? I'm gonna get to that next, but I'm go ahead and get back to this so I can won't be long-winded. But so I went to the pediatrician. I had to see Dr. Blair. She had not seen Noah in about a year and a half. Last time she saw Noah, he was a little over 1, right? When she walked in the room, she was like, is that Noah? She could not believe her eyes. She couldn't believe her eyes. She was like, I cannot believe that this is the same child. And she tested his blood. And she came back and she was like, what did you do? She was like, his skin is golden, is glowing. His hair is, because he got locks now. He went from all his hair falling out from here to here, being born with a head full of hair, to locks. And he haven't been long locks, and he haven't even been a year locked yet. She's looking at his skin. She's looking at his vitamin levels and his weight. No, it's 27 pounds. He's the weight he's supposed to be for his age. And she was like, wow, he's gained all the weight. His skin is glowing. His vitamin levels are up. What did you do? What did you do? I said, I took those foods out. I figured out exactly what he was responding to, what he was allergic to, and what he was, because there's a difference between being allergic to something and having a food sensitivity. Those are two different things. I found out Noah he has a food sensitivity to wheat, because the journey still continued. It's a long story, because after that, his skin was clear. Noah would still go into these spells just here recently for the past year, to where he'll eat wheat and he would be suffering for days. Constipation, irritable, not sleeping at night. And I almost thought that my son had celiac disease. I'm like, wait a minute. So this has been probably the reason why he's been having all these issues after I took out, of course, those main foods. But the biggest problem seemed like it was outside of dairy and eggs is the actual wheat. His body cannot take it at all. Some blood types and certain people cannot handle gluten. So Noah still to this day, he's 100% plant-based, except on Passover. And he has to have a gluten-free diet. I thought he had celiac disease. I had to take him to a gastroenterologist. And I told him what Noah was going through. But I had gotten to the point to where his skin wasn't flaring up anymore because his gut was healed. So when he ate that food, the allergen didn't appear on his skin. It affected him internally as far as constipation, bloating, irritable, rashes at where his butt when he was trying to use the bathroom, different things like that. The gastroenterologist said, let me ask you something, Mom. You already healing him already by just not giving it to him, right? He was like, so the thing is, in order for me to test him for celiac disease, I would actually you would have to give him the gluten, the wheat, from and it have to be in his system for a month in order for me to even see if he has celiac disease. So he was like, and you're not going to do that, right? And I was like, no. He was like, well, even if you do have it, you're already healing him of it because you're not including it in his diet. You see that how he responds to it, so just don't give it to him. Now, when he gets older, do explain to him he have a severe gluten intolerance. And if he eat it, this is what happens. And if he do decide to eat it, then he can try to get tested for celiac if it stays in his gut long enough. So, y'all, it's a long story and it's a whole lot to it. And we're still, so now to this day, Noah cannot have gluten. And do you know I took him to get an allergy test for that? And an allergy specialist told me that Noah wasn't allergic to wheat. Do y'all know that it's different allergy tests? There's IgE. There's IG. See, that's some deep stuff that I'm not even getting to right now. It's too much. I probably not going to know what I'm talking about. But this is what I do want to tell you. Just because the allergy specialists tell you that your child is not allergic to it does not mean that it's not a food sensitivity or they're allergic to it. Keep going to get tests, get a blood test, and learn the different type of allergy tests that can be administered on your child, because there's several different ones.
Yeah, and I was told you have to also ask for specific things. So if you go in and say, I want an allergy test, they will pick random things that your child is not even probably exposed to, like certain trees or ragweeds or whatever. You don't even know what type of trees you have in your yard. And there's a certain amount of stimulus that they will have on that specific test. So you have to tell them, no, I don't want to test for this. Please test for that. I don't want to test for this. Please test for that. So it will be a group of allergy tests. And then the next time you go, then you can do another group, you know, so you have to be very specific. But I wanted to ask Sister Naem, in your practice, how much have you seen people or melanated children come in with eczema and different deficiencies and how it's related? You're still on mute.
Trying to figure that out. It's kind of funny because as I was preparing for today, the two biggest things I wanted to emphasize, especially for melanated people, was iron deficiency and vitamin D and vitamin B deficiency. And so when Sister Shoshana mentioned that, I was like, that's for the Most High, because one of the biggest things we don't do is we don't like to go to the physician. The physician is good for testing, because for breastfeeding moms, it's really important that you know what your levels are, because they'll give you this whole beret of vitamins you should be taking, but you may not be deficient in those vitamins.
Exactly.
And so it's very, very important that you know where your deficiency is, because breast milk composition, once again, it does not come necessarily exactly like I'm going to eat this one thing and my breast milk is going to be this for the baby. But it can be, like she said, I can eat this one thing and my breast milk, you know, causes my baby to flare, or it causes my baby not to be efficient in certain minerals. And so there's some things we can get from our food, and there's one of the biggest things, because like she said, your skin is one of the biggest organs. It is the largest organ on your body. It's exogenous, which means, you know, we can't see all the other organs, but we can see this organ. And this organ is the biggest foreteller, the biggest diagnostic tool we can use, because of your skin, if you have breakouts. I have asthma, I have eczema myself, and I had leaky gut myself. So all those things which you're putting into your body, you were right on point, Shoshana, because you know, if we would know this ahead of time, we could eliminate so many problems. So your question was, how many times do I see eczema? And we don't care about Edomites, right? But it's funny, because the ones who mainly have actual true eczema are us. And deficiency is us. Why? Because our forefathers, our foremothers, where were they? They weren't inside a house like this. They were outside. And it's such a big thing for vitamin D deficiency, because you know how vitamin D deficiency can be fixed? 10 to 15 minutes a day outside in the sun. And also you want to add in, like she was saying, your vitamin C's. So you want to make sure that you're getting citric acids, berries if you're not allergic, because those things you need all that to help with the iron production, and you need that to help with vitamin D. So vitamin D is one of the only things that is produced within your body. It's produced in your kidneys. And so in order for that to be produced, you have to be getting sun. And because of our melanin makes it, even though I'm lighter skinned, that has nothing to do with the amount of melanin in your skin. So melanin it kind of serves, that's why we don't get sunburn. Because our melanin, we don't need sunscreen. Our melanin serves as a sunscreen. So that means it's harder for the sun to get inside those cells to metabolize it. So you think, oh, I'm driving in the car 5 minutes. No, you have got to get into the sun, because it can take up to 45 minutes for some more brown-skinned people for that sun to penetrate into those cells to help your body metabolize and to produce that vitamin D. So make sure that you're getting enough sun. And the other thing is, if you're a breastfeeding mom, make sure that you get your levels tested, because I made some notes here. Let me go down to my iron deficiency real quick. And we'll talk about allergies in a minute. Okay, so most people think that there's not enough iron in your breast milk, but the human milk is more readily absorbed by your baby than iron in cow's milk and fortified cow's milk. So you think the doctor's telling you, Shoshana, you said, oh, here, give this baby formula. No, it's really what am I eating? Because I didn't test the baby till 1, but what am I eating? So do I need to change something? Do I need to add, like you said, more green leafy vegetables, more spinach? If you can't have nuts, like, you got to be careful first, because once again, whatever your baby is eating, you're going to see it, because as you're eating, you eat something, it hits the gut, the stomach diffuses that, and some of those things, like you say, oh, my baby, I ate whatever, and it seems like the baby didn't like it. There's certain molecules that go into your breast milk the baby can taste. So that is a true fact. But your blood is what carries all the nutrients into that baby. So you need to test your blood. You need to see what you're deficient in, and then you need to give it to yourself, so you give it to your baby. That's a very big thing. If you do need a supplement, just for whatever reason, you cannot make enough vitamin D, make sure you're getting a very good, high quality vegan vitamin D. That's very important, because a lot of the supplements have fillers in them.
Oh, yeah.
You don't need the fillers.
Right.
Go ahead, sis. You want to talk real quick on the supplement?
Yeah. So one of my pregnancies, I was talking to this Moab doctor, and a lot of Moab, they're actual doctors in their country, but when they come over here, their licenses over there don't match up with the licenses and stuff over here. So they end up taking a so-called, like, a lower level job, which is not really lower level, but just for the lack of words, a lower level job, like becoming a nurse or even an acupuncturist. So I had one nurse's assistant come in and talk to me, and she, I wasn't eating much. I don't eat much when I'm pregnant, and I normally lose weight while I'm pregnant, but she said that's okay. So the myth of fasting, and now it all depends on you. Some sisters need to eat, but there's some sisters that they actually lose their appetite. So the Moab lady said, the Chinese lady, she said, your unborn child is going to thrive off of your blood and hormones. So if you're not eating, as much as you feel like you think you need to, it's okay. Just make sure you're getting in nutrients however you can, and make sure your hormone levels are stable, because that will also affect the baby. So those were the two main things that she suggested, and it was totally true. All that food and eating for two people and all that, it's not true. It's a myth. You just have to make sure you're eating nutrient dense food. So collard greens, salads, fruits, smoothies, vegetables. That's what you need. Even, sweet potatoes, yams, cassavas, the root vegetables and things like that also. But, there's a lot of bad information out there to keep us sick.
Yeah. So I wanted to touch on that. So that is the main thing. We talk about the blood. The blood is so important. Mm-hmm. So I want to talk about pregnancy, babies, and after your child is bigger. So vitamin D. Okay, so a woman who is not getting enough sun exposure, like I said, if you're more brown skin, you need more sun exposure. It takes a little bit more for that sun to penetrate into those cells to help you metabolize that vitamin D. But if you don't, and I think Sister Yoella, I think I bought my vitamin D from you, but the women can take, you can supplement 6,000, it says IU, that's international units a day, and that will help you get a sufficient amount of vitamin D in your blood because babies can be born with deficiencies. Yes. Vitamin D is so important because it's your immunity. So if your vitamin D is low, your baby's always going to be sick, and just before your baby's even born, you're always going to be sick. You're always going to be sick. You're going to have more allergens. You're not going to be able to fight off anything. Get your blood tested to see what your vitamin D levels are. Mm-hmm. The other thing is the iron. This is why you're pregnant. While you're pregnant, the iron is so important because you could be anemic. Your body is producing more blood. Guess what? Mm-hmm. If you don't have enough iron, a hemoglobin is bound by iron. So you're going to be more fatigued. You're not going to have enough oxygen in your blood, and you're going to be pale, and everything is going to hurt. You're going to be sick. You're going to be vomiting more. All that is very, very key to making sure. And they're going to try to supplement you. Ferrous sulfate is what they give you. Guess what? Your body cannot absorb it.
No, it's synthetic.
Yeah, your body cannot absorb it. So if you need it, I think, Sister Yoella, you have also some iron supplements, right? That are
I have a iron and vitamin C together.
Because you need both to drive it into the iron. Your body cannot work one without the other. So they forget they give the moms iron, but they don't supplement the vitamin C.
Right.
They give you iron that your body can't absorb.
No vitamin C.
Right.
But sis, you know what's funny? I'm not to cut you off. You know what's funny? The pediatric, just like you are the pediatric nurse, when she saw he was iron deficient, she was like, wait a minute. And she don't even supposed to do this in her office, but that's why I love her. She's from Jamaica, Tribe of Benjamin. She was like, can I test your blood real quick to see if you iron deficient? Because she just wanted to see.
She did a finger stick?
She did. And how about I wasn't? So that proves he had a true leaky gut. I wasn't iron deficient.
Right. Yeah, and so it's really, even for women, you were talking about the wheat allergy for women. If you're vomiting a lot, you have a lot of bowel issues, you probably have a leaky gut. Why? Because our food is so genetically modified. Yeah. Okay. So wheat is one of the top things that it's modified. You can hardly get wheat that is not modified. You got to go to like a small local grower, which the government are shutting down, so that's not even a thing anymore. Soy, high on the list of genetically modified. That's why even people who eat a lot, who are vegan based, you really need to stay away from a lot of soy products. That stuff is terrible for your gut. Nuts, those are very genetic. One of the things is like Brazil nuts and walnuts. Those are less genetically modified than all the other nuts. But a lot of people don't like them because they're really oily, but guess what? Those oils are very good for you. Also corn. If you're eating a lot of corn chips, hello, my mom is Issachar or Mexican, So, yes. You need to stay away from that because it is going to make you sick. So if you're pregnant, check your levels. You got to specifically ask them to check your iron and to check your D and your B. They do not check those. Those do not, they say, oh, order a basic metabolic panel. That's your sodium, potassium, calcium. It checks like your essential, and most people are really not low. Sometimes potassium, black people or Judites are sometimes low in potassium. So you need to make sure that you're, ask them, because I just want to let you know, as a nurse, I know that those values that they use are European standards. So those values are based off of white people. So whenever they say, oh, you're fine, but you're actually not fine, because you're like, my body is symptomatic, even though you say I'm within that normal range. So know your levels, get with like Sister Yoella, somebody who is a nurse coach or a health practitioner, because guess what? When you come to us, we are not physicians, as far as we need those numbers to see how can we help you. Without those numbers, she can't even help you. She needs to know what the doctor has diagnosed you with first, so she can supplement you. Because it's like, I mean, I can't look into your blood and see, you know, oh yeah, you're low iron. You may be symptomatic, but guess what? You can be toxic from iron. You can be toxic from vitamin D. You can be toxic from these things if you have an over amount. So you got to really know what your levels are, because if you're like, oh, I think that I'm low in iron, and then you're supplementing yourself too much iron. Iron is a heavy metal. Hello, you can be sick from too much iron. So just
zinc as well. You could have too much.
Too much zinc. Yeah, people are like, oh, I take zinc and I supplement my zinc, and you know, I try to. I'm like Sister Ella. You know me. I'm not real pushy. If people ask me for the information, I will give it. But I'm just like, I'm not one of those like, I'm gonna tell you what to do, because some people don't want to hear it. I feel like, well, if you want to hear it, you know, I will let you know. But you can have a zinc toxicity too, and those are heavy metals, and they can kill you. Just FYI, because your body
really can.
And that's why this platform is so, to really push the families or the mothers, the fathers, or the healers in the family to really do the research, really learn your child, really learn yourself, because the child will talk to you even in its own communication through its skin, you know, through digestive issues. That's the child's way of saying, mommy, I can't have this. You have to change my diet. But we have to pay attention to these signs. We can't just let it keep going, just keep giving them the same diet, keep giving them the same type of, you know, everything, and especially base this child off of the last child, because every child, I have 4 now, every one of them are different. Every one of them had their own little struggles, their own little challenges. So it's, you know, we have to pay attention. Our business must be the wellness of our families.
I wanted to talk about some of the things that Sister Shoshana mentioned. Having asthma, allergy, and eczema. In a baby under 2 years old, they don't diagnose them with asthma. They call it reactive airway disease. And guess what? It's eating. So we're feeding the babies formula, and the formula, either they give them 2 things. They give them carnation, which is a soy-based formula, which is very genetically modified, and they give them regular formula, even alimentum. Those things, once again, it all leads back to your gut, because they ingest it, and the way your body breaks that down is, I mean, you're almost a quick reaction. They eat it, they start burping, they're real gassy, they're colicky. That's leaky gut. And so casein, these are all enzymes that are inside the milk, okay? And I understand some women, you know, they can't breastfeed. It's not necessarily that you can't breastfeed. I just want to let you know, breastfeeding, I'm a breastfeeding educator myself as well. And I'm actually trying to do the rest of the, you know, Esau likes paperwork. So I'm trying to do the rest of the classes to do lactation consultant. But the casein, it causes the bowel to leak. And so when the baby's intestines are leaky, it's painful. So they're gonna cry more. And so you really have to resign to make a change. Sometimes it's going to take a little bit more investment, because maybe WIC doesn't provide the milk that you need. Well, guess what? You may have to cut back in other areas. And you know what? If you, like me, I'm 45 years old. Guess what? If you wanted to go back to breastfeeding, it's just, even if I wanted to breastfeed, just say I adopted a baby, you can breastfeed again. You need to get with somebody. Your breast milk is the best milk.
Yes.
Because your breast milk coats the baby's stomach. Even if the baby has allergies, your breast milk protects that stomach. You want to say something, Sister Yoela?
Yeah, it's just so funny that you're bringing all of these things up. Doctors, even in the world, with people that's in the world that are still on drugs, that are still, having a toxic lifestyle, the doctors will still say, breastfeed.
We do that.
Breastfeed.
Except if they're using meth. Like if they're using meth.
Well, Lord,
listen, I'm a labor nurse, and they'll be like, well, I just use meth for my toothache. Well, sorry, you can't breastfeed right now.
Oh gosh, I wasn't even thinking that much, but
No, we have a lot of meth heads there, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But marijuana, if they just use like marijuana or something more
drinking alcohol,
or organic, we still encourage them to breastfeed, because breast milk is a complete food. And you touched, Shoshana, on the doctors trying to push you to feed your baby something before the year mark. Your breast milk is a complete food, and your baby does not need anything up to a year. Can you introduce foods? Yes, but you do want to stay away from those really eggs, nuts, dairy. You want to not introduce any meats, any red meats. You want to really look for, I would recommend, if you're introducing your baby to foods, to make it yourself. You know why? Because you know what's in it. If something is in a jar and sits on a shelf, guess what? It is not organic.
Even if the label says that it's organic.
The label says it. It is not organic. Now, if it's frozen, because I've seen some baby foods in the freezer section, okay,
that's a little bit better.
Yeah, because it's gonna go bad. If it goes bad fast, guess what? Your body is able to break it down. If it can sit on the shelf and just say you open it and you're like, oh, I'm going to use this later, tomorrow, whatever, it is not organic. It is best to make, and not only that, make sure the foods that you're buying are not genetically modified. People think, okay, organic means no pesticides used.
Right.
Genetically modified is mingled seeds, and like she was talking about cross allergies. A lot of babies have cross allergies because the seeds are mingled together. They touch different things, and you're like, well, I didn't give my baby that. Well, maybe those seeds were cross mingled, and that's why you have an allergy in your baby. Did you want to say something, Sister Shoshana?
Oh, I'm just literally agreeing with everything that you are saying. And I'm just loving this. And I just wish. I can't wait till you open up your practice, because as I read, and I'm just loving it, because as I'm in school reading, it's the same information. I'm just loving this. I'm just like.
Well, that's like this information is not come from Esau. This is like truly, I believe, we Most High has given us a gift, and not, I was telling my Lord, or my husband, I don't know if everybody's here repenting. But I was telling my husband, I was like, you know what? I don't use my gift the way I should. I'm sometimes don't want to let my light shine for other people's feeling my glow. But I want to start making sure that I do that.
Oh no, if you're around me, I'm gonna pull it. I'm gonna pull it out. What we have to realize is the information that's out there is not so much that it's not correct. Right. That information is for a certain group of people. So that certain group of people need red meat. They need their eggs. They need their milk and, stuff like that. We have our own food that we need. We're very much melanated, connected. We need the sun. Those people that have the information out there that's controlling the media, they are cave dwellers. They don't really need the sun. The sun is going to burn their skin. Right. So when we are reading things and it's coming from a certain source, it's not to say that it's not true. It's true for them.
Yeah.
You know, so we got to understand, that's why we have to make sure we do let our light shine. We do have platforms where we can really put out information that's for us. So a lot of things that I'm hearing now is, as parents, these are things that we can do. We have to be honest. So we have to be honest about our children's shortcomings. Those same shortcomings can turn into blessings. So when I first came to Dallas and I found out that Sister Naem was a pediatric nurse, that's when I started to notice certain things about Aaron, about my 4-year-old. So I used to come to Naomi all the time, like, there's some things going on with him that I just, never experienced with my other 2 children. So within being honest and overcoming fear of what may be, I would sit down and discuss things with her. So when Aaron was born, he was born a preemie. And that pregnancy was just, whew, that was like my roughest pregnancy. And I normally had, my last 2 pregnancies was very smooth. So I was in a lot of pain during that pregnancy. I had sciatica, and also with me specifically, once I have a child, I have to really make sure I give my body time to replenish itself, to nurture myself and stuff. But I got pregnant right away, right after I had my second child. So I was still kind of like in a deficient type of, mode when I got pregnant. So that was a struggle pregnancy. So before it was time to deliver.
Sister Yoella, can I interject just one real quick thing?
Mhm.
Just because I just want to, as you go, I wanted to say something. Being that, I'm very in tune with the body. I know a lot of sisters get pregnant back to back. There are ways naturally to not get pregnant, but your body really needs 18 months to be ready to house another baby, truly, because you're deficient. And so women tend to bleed more.
Yes.
They can't produce sometimes like they do. They get nauseated even at the sight of their other baby because their body is not ready for another baby. I just wanted to say that because I know our sisters are like, well, the Most High gave me this baby, but really it's because it's just you need to take care of yourself. You need to make sure that there's natural rhythms, and we're just lazy. We're lazy. We don't want to do what we need to do. We just want to just get it on, baby. I'm free. Those days are up.
Exactly. And that's what I did not do. So I got pregnant literally 12 months after, and I still didn't feel 100%, so anyway, by the time it was time for me to go into the last trimester, the end of my pregnancy, I was in so much pain. And I remember having to go to the emergency room, and I was in so much pain. The doctor was like, you know what, we're just going to take the baby out. And if I was a little more calm, and if I was a little bit more, just thinking correctly, I would have said, okay, don't take the baby out, but maybe there's some sort of pain management that I can go on until just give my body another 2 to 3 weeks, and that's what I had to do with my first child. But I was just like, okay, let's go. Let's take this baby out. I was so, it was just a bad time.
But they don't know your background either about your condition, that your pain is not normal. Your pain
Exactly.
causes more pain.
Exactly. So this was the first Caucasian and the only Caucasian male doctor that I have ever had that suggested this madness, So there was people in the hospital, because I was like, what do you think about, my doctor was not on call at that time, so these Caucasians, all they like to do is cut. So he was just like, okay, let's take the baby out. We're going to take the baby out tomorrow. I was with it. I was in so much pain, so I was fine with it. So at this stage in the pregnancy, he was not fully developed. So they took him out, and I got so much relief. I was instantly out of any type of pain, but now my baby had a struggle. So my baby was in the NICU. He had a tube down his throat. And so I came in like, all right, let me get my baby together. Let me pray to the Most High that he could give me the strength to help me heal this baby. So I would come down every day and I would rub him down. I would pray over him, and also spend time. I came down there 3-4 times a day to breastfeed him, or to get him to start. So every day he was progressing much more, like just doing very, very good. So he only had to stay in the NICU for about 7 days. The last day that we was in there, they transferred him to another room. So I don't know what happened, but all the information was not transferred as well. So there was a Benjamite nurse in there. She was a sweet lady, and she vaccinated my child without my consent. So being that he was so deficient in everything, they suggested that I give him formula plus my breast milk to keep, because they would not release him from the hospital unless his sugar level was up. So his sugar level had to stay at a certain, number in order for me to take him out, and it kept dropping. So I said, okay, do you have kosher? So they actually had kosher formula. So I would give it to him and his sugar levels were staying up. So sometimes, ladies, we don't want to put out an absolute for anybody. So what one sister may not completely do for her and her child, you may have to do it for you and your child. Same thing with a C-section and natural birth. Some sisters, die in childbirth, but now that we have modern technology, you can have a C-section to save the baby and save the mother. So just make sure you are looking at this or listening to us in a broad view. So I only gave him formula for about 2 months, and then once he got home, I knew I can do what I needed to do to keep his sugar level up through my breast milk. So that's what I did. So after about a month or two, I stopped with the formula and we were strictly, breastfed. So throughout this journey with my little Aaron, I noticed certain things about him. So he would cry so much more than the average child. I mean, this little boy would cry, 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 cry. The only time he did not cry was when he was on my breast. I would call Amina and be like, oh my goodness, sis, I'm trying to give this baby a bath, and he cried the whole time. So I discovered the pacifier. So this is the first child that needed a pacifier. That's what soothed him. That's what kept the baby. So they about him. But he would not talk. He would not tell me certain things. He would not give me certain signs and signals. But he could count very young, and he could say his ABCs very, very, very young. And also, every time he ate, he would use the bathroom right away. So I'm like, something's a little off. Something, and this goes into being honest about your child. So I would study more. I was actually studying autism for another child that came across my path. And then I noticed certain things about my child, so at first you don't want to say, okay, this might be what it is. And then you hear certain things. I was studying Dr. Umar Johnson, and you know, you don't want to put a label on your child, and you know, that label might have to carry throughout all their years or whatever. So as he's getting older, I'm like, you know what, I think I want to get him evaluated or tested, you know. And that was my decision, because I needed to know, because the more I knew about him, the more I can do for him. So, you know, I think when he was 3 years old, I remember being on the phone with Sister Shoshana, and I was saying, this was the time she was talking to me about Noah. I was like, okay, sis, well, I have to go because I'm about to give my child, speech therapist is about to come over, because he wasn't talking. He was counting and he was saying his ABCs. He could count all the way up to 50 before he was 2, you know, but he was not talking to me, you know, he was not telling me certain things. So I got a speech therapist to come, and she was working with him. And I told Shoshana, I'm getting a speech therapist. And she was like, I think I'm gonna get a speech therapist. And it was just like a breakthrough for the both of us. Like, a lot of people in the Black community don't talk about getting speech therapy for your child. But my thing is, every child has a struggle. Every child is going to have certain issues, and I want to be the best parent that I can be, so I can help him along the way. So he was getting speech therapy, and that was going extremely well. So we had this Black lady. She was awesome. She like treated Aaron like he was her own, you know. So I would sit and talk to her, and I would talk to her for hours, and I would be like, what do you think about, you know, I said, do you think he's like on the spectrum? Or she's like, I can't even tell, because some days he's just really talking to me. And then some days he's having his outbursts, he's having his tantrums, he's having all types of things, you know, so I'm not sure. So I'm like, so what do you think about getting your child evaluated? She's like, look, this is me. She said, I did it with my child, you know, and I found out that my child did have autism. So now I have the best services for my child. You would probably be doing your child a disservice by neglecting the issues that he's going through and putting him in regular classroom with a regular teacher, and that teacher is not equipped to handle him, because my child would have these major tantrums, major tantrums, as well as having gut issues. You know, so I'm thinking, if he's in school and he got to poop 3 times a day, you know,
Who's gonna do
it,
that?
yeah, and then I really felt like me as a parent did not know how to give him the best education. So me and my Lord, we fasted about it, we prayed about it, and we found she gave us a company that would give him a evaluation. So we came, and I thought it was going to be this big testing thing. All they did was have him in a room with a whole bunch of toys, a whole bunch of learning toys. So they would be like, Aaron, so what is this and what is that? And, you know, just playing with him with the toys. And they was just so blown away about how smart he was, but the communication piece was not there, you know, so his social skills was not there. So then when it was time to go, he had a big tantrum. So that put the stamp on it. So they was like, okay, I see what you're dealing with, Mom. At home, he has problems transitioning to the next activity, or transitioning, okay, this activity is over, now it's time to go. That would shatter his entire world, you know. So so they did say that he was on the spectrum. So I came home, I spoke to my Lord about it. He was like, don't cry, Yoella, it's okay, whatever. So I got back on the phone with the workers, and so they was like, well, he has So we have pre-K for him, pre-K 3. So he qualified for pre-K 3. So we brought him to pre-K 3, and he was doing so well. So before the pre-K 3, he started moving to Texas. This is when I would contact Sister Naem all the time, because he started getting this really bad sinus infection, allergic reaction, I guess, to being in Texas. So the doctors would say, oh, he's just having an allergic reaction. They gave him steroids, antibiotic, and an over-the-counter allergy medication. So that stuff would work for like one day, and then he would be back to he would wake up with massive snot all on his pillow, all dried up on his face. It was so bad. Like, when he would wake up in the morning, I would call my husband, and say, babe, look, and there would be tears in both of our eyes, like, where is this coming from? And then constantly taking him back to the doctor, and they're just saying, oh, it's allergies. I'm like, there's no way this is just allergies, but lo and behold, I think it was. So I said, okay, the Most High gave me a gift, let me use it. So I created the tonic, and the first night we gave it to him, the next morning, he did not wake up with that mucus. So he started to have a little bit of runny nose later on in the day. Then every day we would give him one in the morning, one at night, until we suffered with that mucus for about 9 months. The people in the body, in our church, would be so used to him, they would have the tissues there waiting for, come on, Aaron, we got the tissues, let's go, and just wipe his nose and just, keep it moving. They was just such a blessing to have, because they was just like, we got him, don't worry, or whatever. They worked through his tantrums. There was another sister there in the body that was like, I got this doctor, sis. My son kind of struggled with the same thing, but guess what? He's not autistic anymore. And I was like, really? Okay, all right. So I brought him to the doctor. Some of the same things they suggested, I had started to give him. So they needed for him he had leaky gut. So what you'll see is there's a brain-gut connection. So anytime you have a child with developmental delays or ADHD, autism, speech delay, whatever it is, there's something going on in their gut. So then it goes back to the nutrients. So because they have the leaky gut, they're not absorbing the nutrients that they need to have the proper brain development. So I worked on his gut. He needed the zinc, he needed the probiotics, he needed oregano oil, and these were all the things that the doctor, the naturopathic doctor, all said that he needed. So through this time, giving him all that, plus the herbs that I have created for him, my child did so much better. So now he's in pre-K 4. So he's doing so good. He did not want to be potty trained. He's potty trained now. He catches on to everything so quick. He's talking, he's communicating, he has tantrums every once in a while, maybe once or twice a week now. Or if he's extremely tired, he'll have a tantrum, but it's definitely not like 2 or 3 times a day like how it was before. So now I got called in to the principal's office on Zoom because we're in quarantine now. So his classes continued on Zoom and his speech therapy continued on Zoom. So I got called into the principal's office with the principal of the school, the teacher, and a general education teacher. And they was like, well, next year when Aaron goes to school, we would like to put him in general education classes because he's just doing so good. And I'm sitting there like tearing up and just saying, oh, these allergies are just so bad. But I'm like, in there crying like he only been in there 1 year, and they're already trying to push him in general education classes. And I mean, I'm just like so thrilled because we have to seek help as parents, and we have to be honest about the things that our children are going through. If you know, see something that's not right, you know, or something that's alarming, do not ignore it. See what's out there, see what's going on. Now, if he has to have special education on his record for the next couple of years or even to 12th grade, I mean, my Lord was like, is that so bad? You know, because that's what I was worried about. What about his record? These are Esau's paperwork, you know, and I'm grooming my kids to be entrepreneurs. So what really does it matter? All it matters is that he's getting the proper care that he needs. His teachers were so patient with him. They also taught me how to teach him. You know, so I had my teachers on speed dial. I had my teachers, we could text each other all day, every day. You know, they would take pictures of him for me, you know, and I mean, it was just something beautiful. But if I was like, oh, I don't want to get my child, I would, he would still be here running amok. And now when he's home, he still runs amok. You know, he's home, he does whatever he want to do. But my child is so smart. He's already reading, and he's just 4, you know, he's already writing. He can count to 100. He could count by tens. He could count by fives. He knew his, I mean, he has advanced, education wise, further than my 6-year-old, you know. So, you know, he's just a joy to be around. And I could feel like as a parent, I made my own decisions. Me and my husband made my own decisions for the care of this particular child, for him to advance the way he needs to advance. So I'm just really happy to tell that story, and just to tell other sisters, don't be afraid of a label or something that the world or other people or even your sisters may put on your child. You know, this child came here for a reason, and it's up to you parents to be the child's #1 advocate. Now, you could not take any of the routes that I took and still have the same outcome. But for me, this is what I did, and I'm damn proud of it. So I know both of y'all want to chime in, because I can see y'all trying to chime in.
I wanted to say that when your body, when you, one of the biggest things is that you mentioned, and I think that every parent needs to make sure that they give their child. But I'm going to tell you when it doesn't work, is a probiotic, because the body is filled with natural flora that is good bacteria. So not all bacteria is bad, but there are some yeasts in the body that can fog the brain. Yes. And if your child's brain is foggy, that is going to lead to behavior problems. It's going to lead to cognitive problems, which is the learning, the speech, because you'll say, oh, my child knows everything. Well, comprehension comes before speech, the spoken word. Just like when you're learning a different language, you're like, oh, I know what they said, but you may not be able to give a response. Mm-hmm. That's the same way that works. But I just wanted to say, being a nurse and being just in general, I work with a lot of special needs children. I've worked with a lot of children that had attention deficit disorder. I've worked with a lot of autistic kids, kids with cerebral palsy. The number one thing, it leads back to your eating. Kids that are obese, they have learning disabilities, they have issues with behavior, they have cognitive issues. It is very important, sisters, that we make sure, or just well, sisters, we're all sisters on here, right? That you watch if you're feeding your child chicken nugget, just say you don't want to be plant-based, okay? If you're giving your child $1.99 meat because that
I have
chicken is,
$1.99 health.
hello, is eating corn, is eating wheat, is eating, so you might as well just feed your child that other stuff. So if you do want to do that, you make sure you're getting quality meats and you don't do too much of it. The kind of fat that helps the brain function is not animal fats. So if you say, well, my child's a picky eater, well, your child's a picky eater because you are causing that problem. I'm sorry, let's just say the facts. Your child doesn't know what to eat if you don't feed your child that food. And guess what? Your child, you talked about, you were doing intermittent fasting, Shoshana. Your children can fast. Let me tell you, as a nurse, your children have enough, because, you know, whether you fast your child, that is you. I'm telling you from a health perspective, your child can fast. And in order to break sugar habits, which is bad kind of sugar for the brain, your brain is bathed in glucose. Glucose is sugar, but glucose is not candy, is not Fruit Loops, it's not Frosted Flakes, not that kind of sugar. I'm talking fruit sugars, good fruits, okay, good fruits and vegetables. It bathes the brain. So good foods you're putting into your child's brain. The other thing is not being afraid to get help, like Sister Yoella was saying. There is no shame in making sure your child has the best. We already have a lot of things stacked against us.
Yes.
There is no shame in getting your child the help that they need. So if you have people around you that are making you feel shame, guess what? Those are the wrong people around you, because your child, these are the future prophets. These are the future mothers. And if we're teaching them bad habits, guess what? They're going to teach their children bad habits, and we're producing another generation of obese children. Your children, it's not cute for them to be fat. I'm sorry. It is not healthy for their brain. It is not healthy for their outcomes, for their self-respect, for their self-esteem, all those things. That it is not good for them. So we need to make sure that you're getting and also one key thing, it doesn't matter if you get help if you're not willing to do the work.
Right.
Because it is work. You cannot be an ostrich and stick your head in the sand and think your child is
ignore your child's the signs that your child is trying to tell you without actually verbally telling you.
Or whipping your child. You're just whipping them every time they're
right. You know, they have a learning disorder, but you're whipping them, but they don't have the tools to learn it. You know,
right?
So
beat them. Or beat that at him, Mr. Devil.
right.
Oh, it's you.
Exactly. So there's another supplement. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but this is very important for children as well, and that's DHA. So DHA is something that the mom, it's pretty much omega-3. I think Shoshana mentioned it. She fell off, so if she logs back in,
yeah, that's what I was talking about, the good fat. Good fats. That's the exact kind of fat you need in the brain. Avocados, Brazil nuts, walnuts.
Yes, so that DHA is extremely important for your child's brain development. I'm glad you're back. Brain development and vision. Yeah. You know, it also decreases anxiety. It also decreases depression. So if you do have a child that is having tantrums or having these outbursts, you may have to look at his nutrient levels, like everybody said on the panel, and see if he's deficient in DHA. Right. Because DHA does help the child to think think more rational. So I started, so I have supplements, and I also make sure I'm cooking and giving my child smoothies and juices, all of my children, smoothies, juices, and nutritional dense food, as well as supplementation, as well as herbs. because let's face it, the world is so toxic. You go outside, you breathing in the chemicals and the exhaust, that lowers the vitamins and minerals that's in your body. So as melanated people, we need to make sure we're eating these things, we're drinking these things, and we're supplementing, because a lot of us are just deficient. We're just deficient. We're just not healthy. We're not eating. I remember when I was a vegan years back, my holistic doctor was like, if you're not going to just eat the rainbow, then you might as well just go ahead and eat meat, you know? So now, years later, finally, my husband is on board. So the whole house is pretty much plant-based. He has his one cheat meal every month, all praises. So that's good for him. But our whole house is plant-based. We've been plant-based for about going on 3 months now, and so are the kids. So now, being that I had that experience in the past of being vegan, but being a sick vegan, and not having all the nutrients, and making sure I'm eating my nuts, making sure I'm eating my beans, making sure I'm getting the full, being intentional in what I'm eating and taking my supplements, I have the experience now, you know, years later, 20 years later, with my family and with my little ones. Okay, let me make sure I'm including blackstrap molasses in their smoothies. Let me make sure I'm doing supplements for them. I got them, you know, of course, doing the nutrient dense foods. I can't stress that enough, because that's the key. Making sure they're eating collard greens, making sure they're eating Brussels sprouts, making sure they're eating beans, making sure they're getting their vitamin C, vitamin E, magnesium, and all that through the foods. Then I also make sure I'm giving them supplements as well, because now that we're not eating meat, you'll notice a decline in iron, in certain things. You'll be more sleepy, you'll be more lethargic. So I also made sure I made a blood building supplement that's made out of a whole bunch of just herbs and fruits. So that's good for postpartum women as well as children. So so when you decide to make sure you're eating like how melanated people are supposed to eat, you have to eat according to the rainbow that the Most High created. You have to get your purple vegetables in, your red vegetables, your green vegetables, your yellow vegetables, your root vegetables, the cassava, the yam, the sweet potatoes, the potatoes. These are the foods that we are supposed to eat. And these are the things that our Black scientists, they believe in the power of the Most High. Those Caucasian scientists, they just believe in science, you know. So some things are just, Black scientists, those things are just unexplained. They understand that. But then they also understand that science was created by the Most High, and certain things we have to utilize for our molecular structure. Okay, so the stuff that we see online, it could be right, but it's right for them. Shoshana, you want to go ahead?
I'm just floored at this conversation. You know, I just really give thanks for this conversation, because I was listening to you as you talk about Aaron, and I remember it vividly. I was just, even at that time, I was like, the way that the Most High works, he always gives you somebody who's going to be able to relate to you, number one, and also give you that confirmation of what you should do. Because when the pediatrician did tell me that I would need speech, to put him in speech therapy, I'm thinking in my mind, wow, like I felt very, very embarrassed, because we come from a community to where they don't address mental issues that we have. That's a whole nother topic that people go to and make you look like you a certain type of person if you need a counselor, or if your child needs speech. I had never even heard of speech therapy. That's the community that I come from. I never knew such a thing. And that's why it's so important, like you said, for us to be honest as parents, because if I wouldn't have, that's why I'm glad the way most I set it up to where in our conversation, you mentioned that your child was in speech therapy, because I was like, ding. I'm like, okay, well, that means it's not too bad to put my child in speech therapy because she's getting help for her child. I'm going to do the same thing because it's up to me to do the things that my child needs to thrive. And I feel like a lot of us as parents make that mistake because we don't want to be embarrassed, or we don't want to be honest, as you said, about what our children is going through and what we see in them that no one else can, because we're in the home with them all day. We're not getting them the help that they need to thrive in their future because we don't want to be embarrassed when it's not about us. It's about our children. So I'm just so grateful for that conversation. And as you stated for Erin, how that speech therapist said that she taught you how to teach your child. I love that you said that because that's exactly what the speech therapist did for me. And she was a Black lady. She said, first, the thing is, a lot of new moms and parents in general don't know how to teach their child. And the information that you see on Google about what to teach a child at this age is not true, and every child is different. So she taught me how to teach my child, and it was just such a beautiful experience within itself, because she actually was suffering with eczema herself, and the things that I was helping her with and telling her, and I helped her like with her iron when she was iron deficient too. It was like a beautiful,
Yes, so
a beautiful exchange between the both of us. So a lot of times you're put in someone's life, not just for them to help you, but also for you to help them. And I was just listening to you. Sorry about that. Hold on one second. I'm gonna move.
Can I, while she's doing that, I want to say
yes.
one thing real quick. Like, I think one of the important things in also seeking help is, I don't have my head covered, but to make sure that you're doing what you need to do first. One of the common denominators between you and Shoshana, sis, was that you did your due diligence first to help your child and then sought help. Because sometimes before you seek help, your child may be having a disability because you're not engaging them enough. Right. You're not engaging them to read, and you're well, why does my child have a speech impediment? You're letting TV be your child's educator. Your speech is not that great. You need to be the one to get help. And then, not to say you don't need, I love speech therapists, but sometimes all speech therapists are not created equal, by the way. You need to know that too. And it's okay to make sure that you shop around and make sure that that is the right fit for you. The other thing to make sure that whenever you're doing interviews, I'm a big believer in that, because even with your physician sees 1,000 kids all the time. It may not be the right physician for you, and also I know we love our sisters, but Deacon Ithon said it best. Those Google MDs are not who you need to be talking to. Sister Shoshana has a background in nutrition and exercise. She is a practitioner. You have a background in herbal medicine and holistic health. We tend to go to people who I think this is the right, I think this is the right thing you need to do. And sometimes that does work, like you said, but we really need to go, and sometimes it's going to take a few dollars to make sure that your child gets the help, or that you get the help that you need. Right. You are going to have to invest. And what is that? You go and buy a hamburger or a Happy Meal and it's $10 now, but you won't spend $10 to make sure your child has a good outcome, or that you have a good outcome. Or you're buying a bunch of shoes. My mind. Or you're buying a bunch of shoes. All of those shoes they don't need, because they can't talk and tell you how to tie the shoe.
Exactly. Like, people have the cutest outfit on their children, but we as a people don't do the things that they need to set them up for their future with it, which, like we talking about right now, nutrition. And as I listen to Yoella as well, I noticed a lot of different things that she saw in Aaron and Noah as well, and still to this day, because the healing continues. We
Yes, it
beat
does.
one thing,
Process.
right? But now we're moving on to the next, because,
Right.
you know, now I do notice that, and I'm pretty sure, because I told Sister Yoella that back when we were celebrating our church Passover, about, I think the last year before last, I can't remember, but yeah, it's like, yeah. Anyway, I told her Noah was having tantrums, right? And I do know at that time he did start to wean. He started to wean at that time as well. But now I still notice to this day he still has the tantrums, and he do struggle with the social communication with other children. I do know that he is home with me all the time as well, and he don't get to socialize with children. So I myself haven't. I'm honest. I'm very honest when it comes to Noah. That's why I love that you keep bringing that up. I study my child just like I study, like now I'm in school. I watch his every single move, and I'm honest about everything. And honest, that's what got him to this healing space with his eczema and his healing gut, and the continued journey is because I am honest. I don't ignore anything that I notice about him. And I know for months I did research on autistic children, and I watch YouTube and I would watch different things. I'm like, okay, like you said, I noticed that he says things to me. He like now he talks to me, different things like that. But I watch other areas, and I'm like, okay, I don't think that that's right. So I'm glad that you mentioned that and you shared your story, and that's why it's so important to share our stories, because that other person and other mom may seek healing through that, because they can say, okay, I think my child has similarities. Maybe I need to go get this person evaluated, and it gives them the confidence. So a lot of times we don't want to share our story and keep it to ourselves, but we have to understand that when you go through something, it's not for you to keep to yourself. It can be someone else's way that they're going to get through and know what to do next. And as far as nutrition, that good fats are so important and so under talked about. Is not even funny. Like that's it's like, you know, of course we know as nutritionists, and you being a pediatric nurse and having this education, it's the base of a lot of things. So like you said, the brain development, and I read that early on, and that's why I wanted to make sure I include those facts. But like I said, the journey continues. I'm still being honest, and I still am going to now look into getting him evaluated and getting the help that he needs, and of course being the teacher that I need to be. What I learned was I had to learn exactly how my child learned. Like, because how does he learn? Like, is he the type of child where you can put a video on and he learns? Or is he the type of child where I can sit down with him? But during him getting speech therapy, I learned that he learned best at that age through videos, through Akili and me songs and things like that, versus me sitting down with him saying A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So the thing is, every child is different, and you have to learn your child learning style, and that's a journey in itself. So as Sister Naem said, we have to be the first teacher at home. We have to be the first teacher, but we can't be the first teacher until you even figure out how that child learns. Because you can be doing things at home, but it can be all the wrong things if it's not how that child learns. And I agree with Sister Yoella. I feel the same way about Noah. Honestly, I feel like I want to put him into a program, because being that I see that social skills is what he needs, why would I continue to try to, you know, house him here, and he badly needs those social skills, because he's having those, like she said, those tantrums, those outbursts and those things like that, because he wants to be social, and then when he gets to be social, he still haven't learned how to be social, but he still is only 2.5. But I'm honest with myself to know
there's a fine line, because
the fine line. Exactly.
Because a lot of people just really couldn't tell, you know, and still, like, if I share that with somebody, they're like, Aaron, no, he's just crazy, you know. And I'm like, yeah, you know, but the honesty comes at all levels. When I was pregnant with my last child, I was homeschooling my first child. So I was in New York, still homeschooling my first child, and I was homeschooling him second and third grade. Third grade, I was pregnant, plus I moved here to Texas. So there was a large gap where I could not really give him all the homeschooling that he needs. So we decided to put him in public school, and we found the best public school. The principal is a Black woman. The assistant principal is a Mexican man. And it was just a beautiful combination. So when I told, when I found this school, I put my Lord in. I mean, I put my son in, and the principal was like, "Okay, so you was homeschooling for 2 years. Okay, let me test him to see if he's learning what we teach here." So she did that, and she was like, his test wasn't as strong, but I know New York has a different curriculum. So mom, it's up to you. Do you want to have him repeat the third grade, or do you want to put him straight into fourth grade where he's supposed to be? She said, I'm gonna give you that decision to make. So I said, well, what do you think it is? She was like, I said, you're the professional, what do you think? She was like, well, he is a young 10. He's turning 10 at the end of the school year rather than the beginning of the school year. So that's one. And for two, he might be more confident if he repeats. So I said, okay. So I talked to my son about it. I said, how would you feel? Would you feel a certain way? And he said, no, mom, I think that's the best decision for us. So I had him repeat the third grade, right? So that was the best decision that we made, because he's still the same age as a lot of his peers. He has all A's. He made the National Honor Society. He's on the honor roll. And if I put him, like, just had this pride on me and said, no, my son got to be in the fourth grade, that's where he is, he may have been struggling. He may have been failing. He's very confident in school. They picked him to talk about Black history, so they have him on YouTube speaking about Black history. And he was like, Mom, it was just so hard to not say Israelites. And it was so hard to keep saying African American, but I did it. So it was just great. He's a role model in school. The teachers love him. The principal loves him. So, honesty, ladies and gentlemen, if you're in, is the best policy when you have children, and when you're raising these future great people. They could be prophets, they could be scientists, they can be engineers, they could be, but it's up to us to give them the tools to get there. So a few little things as we wrap up to look for in assessing your child is, what is his reactions to certain things? What is his initial reactions? Pay attention to those. Is the baby predictable in his actions? What kind of moods does he generally display? Look for patterns of his mood swings and things like that. Reduce certain stimulation. So have them go periods of time with no TV at all, no devices at all, and see how they cope. Make sure, one thing I'm a big advocate in doing, even though I'm more on the nutritional side, my Lord is more on the exercise side. I made sure my kids got outside and run. In Brooklyn, there was a track next to our apartment building. We had to go out to that track every single day before they could go to the park and do anything. So even the little ones, even the babies, they had to get around that track at least one time before they got on the swings. So that's extremely important for brain function, okay? So that was reduced stimulation. And that's noise, lights. Some of my kids are light sensitive. There can't be no lights in the room. Some of my kids, I made sure I played classical music, because that is ours too. Drumming, and the Native American flute. That is very important for brain development. Talking to your child while they're in the belly is very important for brain development. Talking to your child at birth is and talk to them like they're an adult. Talk to them like they've been here before. Don't do the goo goo gaga stuff with them. And then be consistent. Be consistent with your children. It's very hard. There was times where I was not consistent with my children. There was times where I'm very consistent with them, but I make sure I keep trying every day, and I'm very intentional. Okay, yesterday I didn't give them their supplements. I didn't give them their vitamin. Last night, they all had diet pizza, so I got to amp it up today, with the vegetables and stuff. So be consistent with them. And remember, be gentle with yourself, parents. It's not easy taking care of these other lives, okay? Get help. Ask for help when you need it. Stay focused on the positive. That is so important. Negative people are negative with themselves, okay? And just make sure you let them know, keep that negativity over there. That's good for you. And whatever you think about my child and my family is none of my business, okay? That's your business. If your business is about me, then you have some reevaluation to do, okay? So make sure you stay focused on the positive. Other things to look for is he active? How intense are your baby's or your child's emotions and responses? Is he adaptable? How long is his attention span? Can you distract them easily? Are they very sensitive? And do you have a high maintenance baby? So as these two sisters wrap up what they would like to leave us with, I'm going to post these other links in the description so you can have access. Don't forget, ladies, the elderberry gummy and girl talk on June 17th is health talk and tips, and we're going to be talking about women. We're going to be talking about women's health. This is exclusive. It's only $25. The space is limited, so we will be making elderberry gummies live, as well as having girl talk discussions on women's health. I will be answering questions, going over the best herbs and practices for women's health. I will be talking about yeast infections, HSV, HPV, simplex 1 and 2, vaginal care, dry sex, slippery sex, all that pertaining to women, single women and married women. I'm about to post the link in the chat. So make sure you register. It's $25. So as these sisters are plugging in where you can find them and all their information, I will be posting that link in the chat. So Sister Naomi, please let everybody know who you are once again, where they can find you, what you specialize in, and then after that, Shoshana, you take it away.
Okay. Well, I wanted just to make a plug. Invest in your health. I'm gonna make sure I'm kind of can get in on that chat. That sounds very good. My name is Sister Naem, House of Soldier Tamir. You can reach me if you have any questions at naemisrael@gmail.com. I want to just say a quick takeaway pieces. Our kids are too fat. 1 in 4 African American or Hispanics their children are overweight. Boop. Okay, get active. Get off your butt. Don't be an ostrich. Your kids do what you do. If you're chunky, well, your kids are most likely going to be too. Get sun. Make sure that your children are getting at least 10 to 15 minutes of sun. If they're more dark skinned, make sure they stay out there. We do not need sunscreen. We have natural sunscreen built into our body, the Most High created. Make sure you're supplementing accordingly. You cannot supplement if you do not know your numbers. And once you supplement, make sure you're getting something your body can process, which is most likely vegan or vegetarian. A lot of capsules and pills have gelatin in them. and it's not beef gelatin. And even if it is beef gelatin, guess what? It's basically fighting each other. That is not a good thing to do. Make sure they're vegetable capsules. So know your levels. They usually don't test levels on children until they're at least 1 year old. But if you're breastfeeding, if you know your levels, you can pretty much tell what your baby's levels are going to be. Advocate. You're going to be an advocate for your child, like Sister Yoella was saying, like Sister Shoshana was saying. Do your diligent research. Make sure you're, if you have any questions, please email me. I can tell you a lot of valuable websites to go to that actually the information is good. We get our information, and Sister Yoella and Sister Shoshana know, we take that information, dissect it, because we have the ability, we have been shown how to do that, and that is what our profession is. So seek a professional. Don't try to handle it on your own. Get help, but get the right help, because you can make, like Sister Shoshana said, you can make a situation worse. Sister Yoella said it too. Get with somebody not only in the Western medicine, but Eastern medicine. So you want to mingle the two. We do need physicians. You need to make sure that you get the right physician. You're doing your homework. You don't have to. Listen, your health insurance is going to tell you to pick one physician, but if you ask, either if you have a caseworker, if you have like Medicaid or Medi-Cal, that's not the only physician you can go to. Make sure you're asking questions. Your health plan, shop around. You can just say, hey, I don't know if I want to choose you. Can I come in, and do you have time for me to talk? And make sure you have your questions. Make sure they're meeting up to your needs. What's the other thing? Make sure you have the right plan. So sometimes you need a second opinion. Make sure that you're getting that second opinion. That first opinion is not always the right opinion. So make sure that you're seeking outside sources. You can talk to your sisters. A lot of times, a lot of the sisters will have physicians they've used. Make sure that you're plugged in. Okay, don't try to handle things on your own. That's what we are, a community. And I'm sorry, but the other nations don't know what we need and how we need it. We may be able to take that information and dissect it. Invest in yourself. Me, myself, obviously, I am a health provider. I know how to research information. Most people do not know how to do that. You need to sometimes, get a nutritionist. If you don't know how to exercise, you can hurt yourself. You can kill yourself supplementing yourself. Just FYI, do not supplement yourself until you know what your body actually needs. That's my takeaway piece. Shalom.
Yes, make sure you write your email again in the chat if you can.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Sister Shoshana.
It was an honor to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me, Coco Fresh. And I just wanted to say I'm definitely signing up for that next chat you'll be having concerning women's health. And I want to piggyback off of what the nurse Naem said, our beautiful sister. She's right. All of our kids rank #1 for obesity, and we rank #1 for everything across the charts. As I'm studying as a nutritionist, it's the truth. And I also wanted to tell you guys and remind you that holistic healing is slow. Stop wanting everything to be quick. That's why we turn to medicine. Sometimes we have to, but sometimes we just don't want to wait, and we don't want to do the things that it takes to put the work in to actually get the healing. So remember that holistic healing is slow. Be patient because it is a virtue. And also I wanted to remind the moms that, before you get pregnant and you're trying to conceive, there's a certain nutrition you should follow. While you're pregnant, there's a certain nutrition you should follow. The thing is, think about a house. You're the house that your child has to stay in for 9 months before they come out. So think about the things that you are eating and how you're taking care of yourself and building your blood while you're pregnant so that you can actually birth a healthy baby. Okay. So with that, I am Shayna Israel Fitness. You can find me at shaynaisraelfit.com. All of my social media outlets are posted there. My email is, I am a certified master trainer. I am in school to be a holistic nutrition wellness practitioner, and I specialize in helping you become the best version of yourself from the inside out, you and your family, and I was grateful to be here. Keep it short.
Thank you so much. I will definitely have you both back. And thank you for all of my audience for attending. And we will see you next week. Next week is postpartum pregnancy, births, and postpartum. That's going to be awesome. And then the following week is the gummy bears, elderberry gummies and girl talk. So don't miss out on that. Next week is postpartum, and the following week is the closed seminar. So thank you all for coming, and thank you for attending Cocoa Fresh Health Talk and Tips. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, Snooker.
I know, she's so cute.
He's adorable.
Thank you, sis.
And I see you had Noah in there.
Look, he's over there. He's like trying to use the bathroom.
Oh, okay. Okay, shalom, everybody. Love you all. See you next time.
Love you. See you next time.
Love y'all.